Let's go ahead and get started. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. It's November 28th. With the Shawnee County Board of County Commissioners, I'm Aaron Mays. I represent District 3. On my left is Commissioner Bill Rippon, representing District 1, and on my right is Commissioner Kevin Cook, representing District 2. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Madam Clerk, first item, please.
First item is item 3, consent agenda.
We've got 12 items on the consent agenda. If there's no questions or concerns, I will move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
Item 4, new business. A, County Clerk, number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Okay, we have 2 vouchers to approve today. Start with the November 18th vouchers. Under County Project, CBD Group, Inc., DBA Interior Landscapes totaling $28,645.31 is for construction of walls and furniture for the DA's office. Under District Court, Clerk of the District Court, Shawnee, $977,934 is proceeds from tax foreclosure sales. Under Park Administration, paid with ARPA and SLFRF funds. KBS Contractors or Constructors, Inc., $284,328.07 is for Lake Shawnee Campground design work. Under Sheriff, Gray Shift LLC, $31,420 is for Gray Key Software annual subscription. And also we have Tyler Technologies, Inc., totaling $251,173.46 is for New World annual maintenance. This is shared paid by Sheriff, the DOC, and the City of Topeka. Total vouchers for November 18, 2022 is $2,733,639.80. From November 23rd, 2022, there are no out of the ordinary items to note. Total vouchers, $1,053,057.33. If there's no questions or comments, I would move for approval of both vouchers.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
Okay, I've, the next 3 items, if you'd like me to read them together, they're all 3 cereal malt beverage licenses.
Let's do
And I will read them and if you have any questions. They are all, they have all been approved, reviewed by the Counselor's Office, KBI, and the townships were notified, so everything on all 3 of them is the same. Number 3, consider approval of resolution number 2022-91, authorizing a 2023 cereal malt beverage license for Shawnee Energy LLC, DBA Fuel Espresso number 51, located at 3603 Northwest 46th Street, Topeka, Kansas. Number 4, consider approval of resolution number 2022-91, authorizing a 2023 cereal malt beverage license to MJAZ Operation LLC, DBA John's Food Center, located at 5812 Southwest Topeka Boulevard, Topeka, Kansas. And number 5, consider approval of resolution number 2022-94, authorizing a 2023 cereal malt beverage license to Dillon's Store Number 37, located at 6829 Southwest 29th Street, Topeka, Kansas.
Okay. It's all right with you guys. I'll move that we approve all 3 of those as one item.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
Item B, solid waste. Number 1, consider approval of request to amend the purchase price of 4 solid waste vehicles due to material surcharges, increasing the new purchase priced by an additional $7,790 per vehicle, for a total increase of $45,460. Funding will come from the solid waste operations budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Sutton, Shawnee County Solid Waste. This agenda item is a additional surcharge for these 4 vehicles that we purchased back in 2021. If you remember, earlier this year, we came with a surcharge increase for the chassis, and now this surcharge increase is for the actual body of the vehicle. So the total increase would be a total of $45,360 for the 4 vehicles. This will be paid from my operational fund with no tax dollars used, subject to your questions, gentlemen.
Any questions?
None.
Nope. All right, I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
Item B2, request to award bid to Laird Noller Ford for the purchase of one half-ton pickup truck for the amount of $36,039.08 with trade-in. Funding will come from the 2023 solid waste operations budget with no tax dollars used.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Sutton, Shawnee County Solid Waste. Last year, we went out for bid for a single half-ton pickup truck, and we received no bids. This year, we went out again. We received 1 bid for the vehicle. It's from Laird Noller to the price of $38,539.08. They gave us a $2,500 trade-in, and we'd like to award this bid to Laird Noller, subject to your questions, gentlemen.
Any questions?
None. I would move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
Item B3, discussion of the present and projected cost of the Shawnee County Recycling Program.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Sutton, Shawnee County Solid Waste. Back in 2022, or correction, 2012, there was a contract signed with Shawnee County Solid Waste and Waste Management for recycling services. That contract is up at the end of this year on December 31st, 2022. This agenda item here is a presentation, a synopsis of the contract proposal and how it affects the finances for the department. The intent of this presentation and this agenda item is to get clear, to have some discussion in a public manner, and to give the department a direction on how we will proceed with Shawnee County Recycling. I have about 20 slides here. First 10 or so, I'm going to go through them rather quickly. It's just background information, and then we'll get into discussion with the actual finance or the contract proposal. Before I get started here, I'd like to acknowledge a couple members of the audience. I have Ms. Julie Coleman. She is the Director of Bureau of Solid Waste for KDHE. She is in attendance, as well as Waste Management representatives back here, Mr. Shawnee Blair, which is the local manager, and then Mr. Tom Vujovich, if I misspelled his name or mispronounced his name, I'm sorry. Those are our Waste Management reps here. So, getting started, I want to start out by saying Shawnee County Solid Waste is a user fee funded, and we receive no tax dollars assistance to fund its operations. You all are very aware of that, but I just want to reiterate that I am user fee funded, and I get no assistance from the taxpayers. So any monies that I get is from what I earned through my operations. Just a quick timeline. Kind of shows the history of recycling in Shawnee County. We started back in 1991. We renegotiated both the refuse contract and the recycling contract in 2011 and 2012. That is important because I receive a host fee from the landfill of $2.50 per ton. And there was a negotiation back then that would increase from $1.50 to $2.50. That helps fund the recycling program as well as the household hazardous waste facility out there on Northeast 46th Street. And then in 2013, January 1st, is when the actual curbside program started in Shawnee County. All right, back then the proposal, and this is coming straight from Waste Management's proposal, and the personnel that pitched this back to the county commission, they have all since switched out, so none of these gentlemen were here. But the basic assumptions was 42,000 customers, 1,200 tons of single stream a month, and the value per ton, the blended value per ton was $145. All right, those are all the assumptions that was presented to the county commission when this was adopted. The proposal was that the 10-year MRF rebate would be to the tune of about $4.5 million. The host fee increase would be $8.4 million with a total revenue of $12.98 million, so a little under $13 million. That's what was presented and assumed was going to happen with the 10-year contract for recycling. What happened was a 10-year MRF rebate, all 10 years, the positive of $123,858. The host fee increase yielded a little under $4 million with a total revenue of $4.1 million for all 10 years of recycling. What did it cost the department? Okay, so a little 10-year statistics. For those 10 years, I delivered 86,289 tons to the Shawnee County MRF. That's a little over 731 tons per month. And when you do the calculation, it has saved 4 months of life at the landfill. So a 10 years of recycling, we have saved 4 months of landfill life. I have currently, this is October's data, I have 48,793 recycling customers, slightly more recycling customers than refuse customers because I picked some up from other companies that does not recycle. So that's who we are affecting here. All right, with recycling, that 10-year thing, we had a couple significant events that impacted the market, and I will show you the dips on the next slide. But China drove the market for recycling. There's 2 events in China, Operation Green Fence and then Operation National Sword, which really adjusted or really cramped down on the amount of contamination in the recycling, as well as some other outright bans on commodities. When that occurred, it created a supply chain disruption, which created more supply than demand, which affected the markets. Here is what the market looked like since 2013. And this is my monthly rebate that I received from Waste Management. So we started out in the first 3 years to the positive. Then we dipped down, there was an increase, and then when that total ban went on in China, you can see I went negative quite a bit. My lowest point was I was writing Waste Management a check of $18,209 just to recycle a month. When COVID kicked off, there was some events that happened nationally with the plastic markets, which really drove up the price, and it yielded me a positive check of the highest amount of $21,257. Now the markets have turned again, and we're back negative, and to where you can see this month I'll be writing about a $10,000 check to Waste Management. My 10-year recycling costs are $16 million. So it has cost the department $16 million to recycle for 10 years. You kind of see the breakdown there. My fleet, my fuel, repairs, the $2.7 million of totes, and then the wages itself. All right, current contract. I'll kind of break this down and I'll try to capture it all. My current contract says blended value per ton minus processing fee, and then I get a 40% share of that if I'm positive, and 50% share of negative, times the tons delivered rebate to the county. So what does that mean? So total blended value is this commodity here. We start with newspaper, cardboard, mixed paper, aluminum, plastics, HDPE, natural colored, PET is water bottles, glass, tin, and then residue. That third column is the pricing. The fourth column is the commodities breakdown by the composition. So right now, mixed paper, I'm 55% mixed paper, so that's what's driving my rebate. And then that last column is the actual amount that I'm getting back at the composition. So you kind of see that there. So in October, I paid $6,900. November forecasted, I'm going to pay $11,400. That's with the current contract. The proposed contract, it is cleaner. It's a fixed processing fee minus the blended value, 80% share of positive, 100% share of negative times ton delivered. That's they're proposed. We assume, the county assumes more risk on this, and this does not include the proposed environmental and fuel surcharge to the tune of approximately $5 a ton. If you use my October tons, that's a little, almost $70,000 invoice that I'd be writing Waste Management a check for recycling. How does this look annually? So I went back and I looked at the highest of the high, the lowest of the low, and then the average. And I came up with this for all 10 years. So best case scenario, with the best market possible, I would be writing under this proposed contract, I'd be paying $16,000. Worst case scenario, I'd be paying $101,000 per month for recycling. And then average scenario would be about $74,000 per month for recycling. And that breaks down there at the bottom of the county fee per ton, just with the processing fee of $149 a ton. So the $149 processing fee right at the top. I went back and looked at other communities, and this is just kind of a snapshot. Wichita, they go to WCA. They're about $100 per ton. Salina goes down to Waste Connections in Hutchinson. Interestingly, Junction City goes to Fort Riley MRF. I could not get a price there. You have Ham MRF, Waste Management MRF over in Kansas City, where our stuff is currently going. And then GFL, Green for Life, has a MRF over in the Missouri side. That's kind of where we're at. There's been several communities that had just shut down recycling altogether. El Dorado has quit recycling. Winfield, Wellington, they've kind of shut down. Newton recently quit. So just kind of give you some backgrounds. There's a lot of places, a lot of municipalities, they just cannot afford to recycle anymore, so they are actually shuttering the program. All right, so now we're getting to the options of what we want to do with Shawnee County Recycling. I'm going to give you 4 options. We can have a discussion and go from there. Option number 1, no change to the program. We write a check to Waste Management. I would highly suggest remove all the recycling drop boxes throughout the county to remove a major source of contamination. Those drop boxes, we are like the last municipality in the state of Kansas to actually have those unsupervised drop boxes, and they are a major source of contamination. Option number 2, terminate the contract at the end of the year. Terminate the recycling program altogether, which would be effective January 2023. Obviously, the first option and the second option are very easy to do. We just do them. Option number 3, retain recycling services with a rate increase across the board for all customers within Shawnee County Solid Waste. That rate increase, we would have to figure out what it is. Working with Betty Griner out at Finance, it would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 to $10 per customer, we're thinking, and that would be to offset both my trash increase and this recycling increase as well as removing all drop boxes across the county to remove the contamination. Number 4, retain recycling through a paid subscription service. So that's if customers want to recycle, they pay for it, and everybody else can opt out if they don't want to. Again, this would be a fee-based service, and again, that fee, we'd have to work out what it is. Shawnee County, we bill through City of Topeka's water department. This would be a very challenging option that we would have to implement. It requires going in and actually loading into the system pretty much 48,000 people, because right now, recycling is a free service, so those accounts are not tied to anything. So this would take, if we wanted to go this way, it would take about 4 to 6 months to get implemented in the system. Just letting you know that. And then obviously remove the drop boxes, remove that free service throughout the county, because it's, again, it costs nothing. All right, so gentlemen, that's it. There's your 4 options. I stand by for questions, discussion, clear direction on which way to proceed. Gentlemen.
Questions?
Mr. Chairman. Bill, let's start for the public. What does MRF or MRF stand for?
Good question. You kind of take those acronyms for granted when you're in the business. MRF stands for Materials Recovery Facility. So growing up, there's a recycling center, but the new term is MRF. So it's just basically another name for a recycling center.
In 2011, when Shawnee County first started to do recycling, there was a construction of a MRF at Rolling Hills landfill, correct?
Rolling Meadows, yes, sir.
Rolling Meadows.
Yep.
And that was so that Shawnee County recycling would be processed in Shawnee County and then taken into the open market. That was the thought, right?
Yes, sir. And again, this happened before my time.
Right.
But yes, it did.
Now, Shawnee County recycling isn't processed in Shawnee County, but it's taken to Kansas City for processing.
Yes, sir. And I will talk on what I know. When COVID occurred back in 2020, and I can't remember exactly when it happened, obviously there was a labor demand or a labor shortage across the board, and that affected the MRF as well. So at some point, and I don't know the exact time, is basically they shut down operations, and now that is basically a transload facility. So those materials get loaded in a truck and taken over to the Kansas City MRF.
What is the percentage of Shawnee County recycling that is actually being recycled?
So going back to my composition, so this is what, all right, so this is what I'm working on right now. All right, this is the composition that I'm working on right now. It's saying 16% is glass. We're still getting glass in the stream, and 14% residue. So right there is 30% that's going out the back door to the landfill, or to a landfill.
Okay, let's stop right there. So, at my household, we recycle. If glass winds up into the recycling bin, that load is being rejected.
Not the load, no, sir. The glass will be processed out. So the load is still accepted, but that glass will be processed out just in the machine, and it goes to a dumpster or disposal or wherever.
What is processed out or rejected? Do we know the amount or percentage that's being rejected?
That I do not know, sir.
Okay. Because it would seem that that is a key variable to whether or not recycling is a economically feasible machine or not. I mean, the amount that's actually able to be recycled, the amount that's actually able to be taken to the open market and sold versus rejected. If we're putting things into recycling that shouldn't be recycled or can't be recycled, and mixing and contaminating, and that's causing, when it's contaminated, it then goes right into the landfill.
Now, under the contract proposal, there was an audit that I was not witness there, but there is an audit that was taking place, And this is the new composition that they have proposed that was in the contract proposal. Cardboard came up, mixed paper went down. I see the other spread. Glass dropped 8.7%, but residue, also known as trash, went up to 36.9%. So right there is, on their proposal, about 46% that's going out the back door for trash.
Okay, so let's stop right there. The "they" that did the audit was Waste Management?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so 46% of what Shawnee County submits for recycling is not recycled.
That's what I am going off of with this proposal, sir.
And this recycling isn't being processed in Topeka or Shawnee County, it's being processed in Kansas City. So it's going into a Kansas City landfill.
Correct, sir.
And after 10 years of recycling, the total impact has only been an extension of 4 months to the rolling meadows?
Yes, sir. So I know a little bit about the landfill. I used to be, so as the, for a matter of record, I used to be the district manager out there at Rolling Meadows landfill. They average about 22,000 tons per month of trash, and they are banked on airspace. And so when you look at 22,000 per month, and we have delivered, how much recycling? 86,000 tons. So you just do the real quick math. So there's about 4 months of airspace that we have saved or by recycling.
Okay. In what you're telling us today, if you can go forward one more slide, right here. We have a contract that is expiring at the end of this month, well, December.
Yes, sir.
And under the new proposed contract from Waste Management, Shawnee County is going to be cutting a check to, or strike that, Solid Waste Department will be cutting a check to Waste Management for $1 million a year?
Worst case scenario, if bad market, it could be over $1 million a year. And right now, we are in a definite, not a favorable market.
So we are going from having a income of $100,000 a year to a deficit of $1 million a year. And that would continue to change year by year.
Yes, it'd all be market driven. The processing fee would be fixed with an increase, so that $149 processing fee, that would always be there. And that would be a major driver of the cost. But even with a great market, that rebate's just not there with that 8%.
Now, solid waste is an enterprise market, it's an enterprise fund, it's not funded by the Shawnee County taxpayers, it's funded by the users. If the Shawnee County Commission wants to extend this contract and go to this proposal where we go from receiving $100,000 to paying $1 million, how much is everybody's recycling bill gonna go up?
Doing some real quick math, it would be to cover both, we had a forecasted rate increase regardless of the outcome of this meeting. That was going to take place on January 1st. But we was not going to publicize anything because we did not know what this turned out to be here. To cover both the refuse and the recycling, it would be to a tune of somewhere between $3 to $10. Again, I'd have to work with Betty to figure out exactly where we'd need to be.
$3 to $10 per week, per month, per year?
Per month, per month.
Okay,
Per customer.
so if Shawnee County wants to continue to recycling as they are, with half the load not even being recycled, and now paying a load fee to Waste Management of $1 million a year, everybody's gonna need to chip in an extra $11 per month.
Yes, sir. The days of free recycling have got to come to an end.
Okay, I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that, and I can see that Waste Management's going to have something to say
Yeah.
too, but I just want to make sure that this is your understanding of what you're presenting
Yeah.
to the commission this
Yep.
morning. Okay, I don't have anything else.
Bill, when did our MRF plant shut down here at Rolling Meadows?
Yeah, it's been within the past year, sir.
The past year?
Yeah.
I take it was just more feasible to haul the recycled material to Kansas City?
Because at the MRF, there's mechanical processing, and then there's also human interaction that actually pick through the recycling. And if you do not have that human labor force to actually do the work, then pretty much it's all going to the trash. And we couldn't, I say they, but nobody could get labor during that point in time.
Who transports all that material over to Kansas City?
Waste Management does.
Waste Management does that. Okay. Okay.
Bill, you laid out 4 options. All of them include removing the recycling drop-off boxes. I noticed there are other communities that's exclusively what they do, and that used to be what we did here. And you mentioned unmanned because of contamination. Have we ever thought about having manned drop boxes to help with eliminating that contamination?
We've considered it. Did not put a whole lot of planning into it. There's a logistics that we'd have to figure out, a location for it, who would supervise it, and, that is an option, just that we did not put too much planning into it.
If we're looking at $1 million a year plus, and that's just for the recycling stuff itself, that's without the cost of the trucks and the drivers and everything else. It seems like that might be an option as well. That's something we may want to also look at.
I think the percentage of people recycling took a dramatic jump when we started doing curbside recycling. Do you have any idea of what that percentage went up?
I could not go back and find that information. I went back and looked, and
Yeah.
that data is just not there.
Yeah, I just don't know how much recycling we'd have if we went back to having to just site locations to dump. A lot of people just wouldn't do that. And I understand the contamination too, because they're unmanned and people could just start throwing anything in any hopper, and they would, some would. Well,
So the glass right now, we don't recycle glass through Waste Management at all.
Correct. We, in June of 2020, we started a glass-only recycling program partnering with Ripple with our drop boxes throughout the county. Those have been a great success. Very clean glass product that we ship out to them at no cost.
Okay. But that did decrease the weight of the recycling loads coming in.
Yes.
And when we're paying on a per ton basis, that would make a difference,
Yes.
wouldn't it?
It definitely did. We saw about 150 ton per month drop. So either people were recycling it or just simply throwing it away.
Okay.
I'm gonna go way back. People used to burn the trash, and I know there's smoke issue and smog or whatever. Has the technology of handling that smoke, has that changed? Are there any larger cities that are actually incinerating their trash?
I cannot comment on that. I know there used to be waste-to-energy programs. I know Waste Management used to have some, but I don't know. I have not kept up with that.
Commissioner Mays?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman. Bill, can we go back to your, I think, map that you have? There we go. Lawrence is using the Ham recycling facility.
Yes.
Are they able to, is Topeka or Shawnee County able to negotiate with Hams?
That's, last time I had a discussion with the Hams personnel, he was extremely interested, but he does not have the capacity of his plant to handle Shawnee County's recyclables at this time.
Okay. Just for the sake of conversation, is Shawnee County able to transport its recycling to Sedgwick County, Wichita, to cooperate with them?
Obviously, we don't have the existing infrastructure in place as far as a transload facility or the existing rolling stock to transport it down there.
And Fort Riley, that's a much smaller facility as well?
Yes, sir. So Fort Riley MRF, they handle Fort Riley proper and then Junction City as well.
So by the process of elimination, it's either work with waste management or eliminate recycling altogether.
In all practicality, yes, sir.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that what the options the Shawnee County citizens have available to them. And so there's not the possibility of cooperating with other recycling facilities or recycling companies.
Without the additional increase of transportation costs.
And I like the comment by Commissioner Mays as to manned recycling facilities as opposed to eliminating all of the drop-off sites. I mean, sometimes when you have, holidays are coming up, and you buy a lot of bulky items, whether they're TVs or toys, and they have the cardboard, your small tote is gonna get filled up really quickly. And so that may not be a way to recycle, but if you can take it all, load it in a vehicle and take it to a drop-off site, you can recycle all the bulk cardboard in one place. Obviously, things such as styrofoam would not be able to be recycled, but the bulk cardboard, I think having that option is something we should not eliminate completely.
Yeah, and I had heard quite a bit about the Mission Township Fire Department removing the bins there. I know there's a lot of folks that live in apartment complexes that don't have curbside recycling, and they like to use those drop boxes as well. So, I mean, even if they still get used, Christmas obviously is a big one, though. I mean, I've seen those bins on the day after Christmas, and they're overflowing, and there's stuff everywhere. I'd like to think that if we had a manned facility, that wouldn't be the case, that, you know, we could call in and have somebody pull it off and put a new one in, or whatever the case may be. But I don't know how we can do it, but I think it should be an option as well, at least something to think about. So, do we want to hear from Waste Management?
I think so.
Would you guys like to speak? Okay, please.
Hi, Tom Vujevich with Waste Management, WM. Can we pull up that slide to show the composition, the most recent one with the proposed? Do you know which one it is? Oh, that. Is this it?
Yeah.
One more back, Bill.
Yeah, one more back. Let's see.
There you go.
So as Bill mentioned, this is a market-driven business. It's all based on commodity market value. As you could see, if you could see, it's a little small, but the composition of what we receive from the county residents are in the left commodity column These are based on actual hand audits that we do at the plant. We do a hand audit every 2 to 3 months just to make sure that, so we understand what the audits are, what they tell us. And so Bill pointed to the the cardboard, that went up dramatically because of e-commerce, so the whole value went up. What's really driving this large number from a tip fee standpoint is the market. There's times where the market is really, really good and everybody does pretty well, and there's times like right now where the market erodes and softens up quite a bit and nobody does really well. It's an industry in which there's a reliance on a partnership between the processor, us, and the customer, the county, where we share the risk and the reward. There will be risks and there will be rewards. If you spread it over many, many years, it'll go up and it'll go down. I've been in this business for 14 years. The blended value right now, as we see it, is half of what it was this time last year. So I just wanted to make that point there. I thought Bill did pretty well on that as well. But I'd just like to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions? Commissioner
You
Ripa?
say the blended value, is anything high right now or up in cost?
Yeah, what we call the non-fiber commodities. All the plastics are pretty good. They're not at highs by any means, but they're pretty solid. They're pretty good. The worst right now would be mixed paper. So mixed paper, after we put everything through our system, and for us to sell mixed paper, just so you understand, is everything that's not paper that's not cardboard. So it's just a mishmash of different paper grades in one bale that we sell. So after we put all the cost and labor and everything into it, we sell it for $0. It's worth 0 on the index. And all of these commodities are based off of an index. The aluminum is, the cardboard is, the mixed paper, and so forth.
So paper is the big loser.
Paper is the big loser right now. But last year, mixed paper was $150 a ton. It's 0 right now. We've seen it go negative, too. We don't think it will, but we don't know.
Who receives this paper? Does this go overseas or is it?
No,
is it all-
everything that we recover from the streams is domestic. We don't go global. We used to 15, 17 years ago. We don't. Everything that we sell, that we market commodity-wise, is within a couple 100 miles of the plant.
Commissioner Mays?
Yeah.
So let's just kind of recap. Shawnee County Recycling, our facility that we have here in Shawnee County, we're not using it right now?
We are using it to transload the material to go to our Kansas City facility.
Okay.
But we are using it for cardboard that comes in. We're able to push the cardboard that goes directly into a baler, and we process that there, and we market it out of that facility.
You know, 10 years ago, a TV like that that's right behind you would have been a premium price. Now, it's fairly common. 10 years ago, the facility that we had here in Shawnee County was a premium facility. I would presume the ability for separating and making sure the right materials go in the right places has evolved as well. Is that one of the reasons why we're not, I mean, you're transloading and taking it to Kansas City?
So the reason we're transloading it and taking it to Kansas City, we've been at that site for just about 10 years. There haven't been 2 months in a row that we've been fully staffed at this facility. It's almost 10 years that we haven't been fully staffed. And so what that causes is a lot of backups, full tip floors, safety concerns, and then we have to run overtime with a shorter crew on Saturday, and we've been burning our folks out. And it just wasn't a safe position to put them in. And so we made a business decision and a safety decision to transload the material to go to Kansas City MRF, where it's a little more automated as well.
Okay.
And a lot less challenging to staff.
You know, I think the general person in Shawnee County, average person on the street, they want to do better. They want to know that they're helping contribute to the environment, and then maybe keeping some of the things out of the landfill, extending, you know, the life of, you know, recycling as a general principle, is a popular thing. But when we talk that 46% doesn't actually get recycled, it's still going into the landfill, we're not succeeding where we're trying. So this model doesn't seem like it's working very well, of letting everybody just put whatever they want into their totes. So
That's fair.
how do we do better? If we know that Ripple glass now, the loads are a lot cleaner and are actually being recycled for glass, how do we do better when it comes to papers and cardboards and plastics to make sure that the right things are being recycled?
Well, I think it's a collaboration between waste management and the county to educate folks. That's slow moving, but we do see improvement in various market areas where when education gets more aggressive, the residue or contamination rates go down. The contamination rate is a big issue with the material that we have coming in here. 37% is about the highest that I have in the 5-state region that I cover. So there's some work that needs to be done from an educational standpoint.
Okay. And when you were talking about paper, it causes me to wonder, if you have highs and lows in your market, how's that any different than a farmer in Kansas? At different points, if they take their soy to market, it could be really low, or the soy could be really high. Cattle could be low, or cattle could be high, depending on the market. Do we have the ability to stock or hold back the paper till when the market is ready to take it?
That's a very interesting question we always challenge ourselves with. The biggest challenge for us in Topeka is space. And one of the things I think that Bill mentioned early on is that when this agreement was put together 10 years ago, it was estimated there would be 1,200 tons per month. I think we've never seen an average higher than about 700. So that's also a contributing factor as well.
Okay. So what kind of space would you need to be able to, and does Kansas City provide, if you're transloading it and taking it to Kansas City already, do you have the ability to store paper for a month or 2 or 3 or 6?
So it would have to be off-site. There's a significant cost to doing that. Then there's double or triple handling, which is another significant cost. Our permit doesn't allow us to store paper outside of Kansas City,
Okay.
nor do I think it allows us to do that at Topeka. I'm not sure if we're allowed to do that or not. It's a good question. We'd have to find out. But sitting on mixed paper for more than 30 days also questions the integrity of the bale. Wires start popping, weather starts eating at it, and then the value diminishes as well, or we take downgrades from the mills that we sell to.
Okay.
And you just don't know what the market's gonna do. Mixed paper could hop up $25 next month. You just don't know. There's so much volatility because it's a supply-demand issue, like your example of soy and corn. You just don't know what it's gonna do. Right now, there's so much supply out there on the paper commodities, cardboard and mixed paper, that it's slow-moving, and as a result, it's lower value.
The bottom line for me as a commissioner, raising the rates $11 a month to the user and not changing anything else isn't really solving any of the problems, and it's really not making the environment any better. So I think that we have to look at, are we going to keep doing what we're doing and getting no result, or do we have to look at doing something better? And so that's where I'm at.
I think it's also a question of sustainability. We are the largest recycler in North America, and we consider ourselves a recycling company, a sustainability company. We used to consider ourselves a hauling company and disposal company. So to me personally, and I think for WM, I think an important part of this too is the sustainability factor of not putting anything in the landfill that we have a market for.
So, you know, of the items that get recycled, and let's just go back to like keeping things out of the landfill, What's the absolute, of the items that we recycle, what's the worst one to put into a landfill? Is it aluminum? Is it plastic? I mean, like, from an environmental standpoint, what's the one thing that we have to be recycling?
Gosh, I think if you asked me that question, you're gonna get a different answer than Bill, who used to run a landfill. To me, I would say everything is extremely important because there's a market for specific commodities, and they're decent, especially on the non-fiber side. As I mentioned earlier, the fiber side, the mixed paper, the cardboard, the newspaper, it's soft right now. But the non-fibers, the plastics, aluminums, tins, metals, are decent, they're pretty strong, and they're pretty valuable. So, to me, I would say all of them. From a what's most harmful to a landfill, I'd probably defer to Bill, who's more of an expert on a landfill than I am.
Okay.
Sorry, I couldn't answer that question.
No, the other thing also is, you know, it was mentioned, Bill, I think you said Hutchinson's paying $100 a ton right now, is that what you said? And so we're proposing it's 150 or 149 or something like that, so.
Off the blended value.
Of the blended
So
value.
it's the blended value, and I don't know what Hutchinson's doing or how they're structuring that, but it's the blended value. We would give the county 80% of that blended value and then subtract the cost to run it through. The other thing I just want to point out too, that if you notice on the price or cost, these are the OCC means cardboard, that's old corrugated containers. Again, we have so many acronyms. And mixed paper, both are tied to the Chicago high side. There's different regions on the index. Just want to share with the commissioners in the group, we don't even always get high side. So our margins aren't great here. But what we're proposing puts us in a little bit better position than what we've seen in the last 10 years. We've been disadvantaged in the last 10 years. However, we kept our word and we honored the agreement. We've also had the ability contractually to downgrade loads. I think in the last 10 years, we've downgraded maybe 2 or 3 loads. If you look at the percentage of contamination, we probably could have done every load, every other load. It's not what we want it to be. It's not the kind of partnership we wanted to have, and we didn't do that. So just another point of clarification too.
Mr. Mayor, has any city changed what they recycle? So like take the fiber out, like the paper material, take that out of what they recycle, and just go after the metal, the plastic, the, you know?
No, they haven't, because it's really a hard ship to steer. If you put an edict out there in a community and say, okay, don't worry about your cardboard and paper, we just want the non-fibers, all the plastics and metals. And then the market picks up on the paper, which it will, and it'll drop, and it'll pick up, and it'll drop. To go back to collecting that, or recovering that, or asking them to put that in, is a very difficult ship to turn.
But the fiber material, does it break down in landfills, or is it there for?
It breaks down, sure, it sure breaks down.
Where your non-fibers would not.
Quicker than the non-fibers.
Non-fibers, right.
Yeah,
And is the price of non-fibers more constant?
it is, it's less volatile. It's less volatile. The papers or the fibers are the most volatile. But you know, you can have cardboard stay at the same price for 12 months, not move a dollar. You can have it move $5 a month, up and down for 2 years. It's all based on supply and demand.
Commissioner Mays.
Yep.
So, Shawnee County, we have waste management as an option for trash and recycling. We have Shawnee County as an option for waste and recycling. And I think we have a couple of other smaller providers. But the 2 primary providers are waste management in Shawnee County, with waste management being the largest in Shawnee County for trash and recycling. Is that fair?
Question for you, I'm not sure what the percentages are.
As far as market share?
Yeah.
Market share. Shawnee County Solid Waste has the market share for residential. Waste Management has the market share for commercial
Okay.
and roll-off. Of trash, yes.
Well, this can't be an isolated Shawnee County only issue. What's Waste Management planning on doing as far as your recycling? Are you planning on implementing more education? Are you planning on implementing a better way to recycle separation? Are you planning on abandoning recycling as a company? Because you're a partner with us.
Correct. We definitely don't plan on abandoning recycling anywhere. The challenge and what's always has to be in the forefront is the education piece of it. And it's got to be constant. We've done tests with western suburbs of Chicago, Elgin, and they went from an ironically 36% contamination rate to a 16% contamination rate with some really hard educational practices. But we've also made it punitive, where we took containers away when they had 3 strikes of heavy contamination in their curbside containers. So that's made a huge difference, but it's the educational piece that really makes it work.
So if Cindy Beck keeps throwing her pizza box in the recycling because she thinks, well, it's cardboard, so it must be recycling, even though it's got food waste, which makes it ineligible for recycling, if she gets 3 warnings, they're gonna take away her recycling bin from her?
So it depends what parameters, you would agree with the hauler, which is you. And you would work with us, partner with us. Ironically, pizza boxes are accepted now because
Okay.
the mills, the mills will take it, believe it or not, so they'll take it. But yeah, something to that degree, you set parameters, and it's visual, right? It's very subjective. When a driver sees it, and he or she will say, okay, that's more than 25–30% contaminated, or 20% contaminated. Again, that's really difficult to do. They get good at it with some training, and we've made it punitive before. And now that was a test pilot with one suburb of Chicago that we did, and we've been able to sustain that improvement over time. But you can't let your foot off the gas of education, because as soon as you do, you see it go backwards again.
Well, I mean, cardboard boxes, and pizza boxes were not allowed. That was one of our big no-nos for the longest
It
time.
was for a long time. Well, so are plastic bags, but that'll soon be acceptable with the technology that's coming.
Plastic bags were a no-no just because they geared up
They wrap up around equipment, and that's still a no-no. But there's technology coming out that I think in the short term will allow us to process that.
Who usually initiates this education? Is this a,
It's got to be
Counties or-
it's got to be a collaborative effort between the hauler, the processor, and the community, via social media, via websites, via mailers, via making sure the labels on the containers are clear and legible and refreshed every so often. It's not one party. It just can't be.
Any other questions?
And this may be more for Jim. I know that today was just a discussion. From a legal standpoint, as the counselor, do you have thoughts on where we go from here?
Well, I think it's more of a policy decision than it is a legal decision, but we've got a contract. We've got to either figure out whether we're going to continue with this company, whether we need to extend it short-term and keep working on it, or whether we're going to continue the program at all.
I mean, today was just a discussion, but I think we need to have some input from Shawnee County citizens. And, I mean, the users. And the users need to know that they're looking at an increase of potentially $11 or more a month. But also making sure that we get this information out, that what we're doing isn't really hitting the target. And that 46%, if my boy comes home with a 60% on a math test, I'm not gonna congratulate him and tell him he's doing a good job. We're gonna figure out how we do math better.
It's not that it's much better, but it's really 37%. The glass, well, you're counting the glass too, that's fair. Yeah, 45%-ish, you're right.
Commissioner, I will say one more thing. We have been working with the solid waste department on particularly focusing on customers that are violating our rules And I could give you some gross examples of how some customers are violating the rules that I'm not going to go into in a public meeting, but it's everything you could imagine ends up in recycling bins, and perhaps something legally along that way, as indicated, where you get a certain number of strikes, and I don't know where that ends, but you get a certain number of strikes and then you're out of the program, because it's just a matter that you cannot use your recycling bin without contaminating it.
Well, the thing about the fines that concerns me is, well, most people's bins are fairly accessible, and the last thing I want to do is have, if Commissioner Mays and I are next to each other, and there's a neighborhood dispute, and I sneak over and throw illegal items in his recycling bin, and he gets the fine.
I think it would have to be, I'm assuming, it would have to be more than just him throwing a couple pizza boxes and the neighbors, like, I mean, I used to have a neighbor that would fill it up with garbage every week. I mean, just no recyclables at all. You know, I assume that there are probably plenty of people around that do that, so.
There are, and conversely, there's a lot of folks, can't quantify it for this county, but there's also a good number of people who put recyclables in the trash. So it's not just contaminating the recyclables, but they're not putting the recyclables in the right container too. So that hurts as well from a composition standpoint. That all goes to the education piece again.
Well, we've got a lot to think about. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for the time.
We are running out of time, though. We've got until January before this contract's up, so we've got to figure it out. So keep thinking on it. I appreciate it. Bill, anything else you'd like to say?
No, sir.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for attending for that, and your patience to everyone else in the room. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item C, Parks and Recreation. Number 1, Shawnee County Parks and Recreation requests the board to set a public hearing for the December 19th, 2022 meeting of the Board of County Commissioners to consider whether to use the design and build as the alternative project delivery method for the Oakland Aquatic Facility and Shawnee South Community Park Splash Pad. The project is funded by the issuance of capital projects bonding in compliance with Shawnee County purchasing requirements. Approval allows the department to commence with the statutory process of selecting a qualified firm.
Good morning, Commissioner John Boyd, Parks and Recreation. We are seeking your approval to use the design-build delivery process for study to find out what it is that we want to do at Oakland and South Center. The pool is over 50 years old at Oakland. We need to do something with it, but we would like to go ahead and get a firm to help us have those discussions with everybody that's involved and come to a decision.
Questions?
Today is to set a public hearing, though, for those two items.
Yeah, we're not approving anything. We are just setting a public hearing
Correct.
for a later date, so. Commissioner, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay,
at
I'll
this
make a
point.
motion that we set the public hearing for December 19th. Do we need to set a time, or is it just at our normal meeting?
During your normal meeting.
Okay. All right, so that's my motion.
And that's for both the aquatic facility as well as the splash pad.
Yes.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Thank you. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item C2, consider authorization and execution of contract C343-2022 with Play and Park Structures utilizing the Interlocal Purchasing System program for the purchase of and installation of a shade sail. The attached proposal outlines work to be done at the Bettis Family Sports Complex's main commons area. Parks for All Foundation has agreed to fund $45,000 of the total $66,047.92, with additional funding of $21,047.92 available from the Building Maintenance Fund.
Good morning, Commissioner. Josh Mikey, Parks and Recreation. This is a project for the shade structure out at the Bettis, the common area. Beautiful facility, as you guys all know. One thing it does lack, shade. With a generous donation of the $45,000 from the Parks for All Foundation covering the majority of the cost. I do have Nate Greer here with the Sports Division to help answer any questions, as he's been a part of this project from the get-go. So with that, I stand for any questions.
So, it's a big complex. Where exactly are these gonna be located?
From what I understand, it's the, in the center. So the
right
common
when-
area, when you walk in,
right
around
when-
it up there, that area.
Kind of where like, there's some tables and stuff there right now in there.
Yeah, so where we have the picnic tables just inside the gates, before you go into the quad area, that brick baseball area basically. We find that it's like incredibly underutilized, especially in the summer when it's super hot. So we would like to provide a place for league teams on league nights as well as tournament teams on the weekends for a place to gather, use our concession stand, and hang out in the complex as opposed to leaving it, between games.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to this at all, but I noticed there's a number of little green spaces out there. Might consider planting some trees too.
I know we do have several trees out there that are
Okay.
still pretty small, but when you're talking about, families and teams, space gets pretty tight.
All right, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Thank you. Also, thanks to the Parks for All Foundation for the donation. Next item, please.
Item C3, consider authorization and execution of contract C346-2022 with Van Wall Equipment, Inc. for the purchase of a John Deere Pro Gator 2020A, $31,435.88, and a John Deere HD 300 Select Spray, $21,262.52, utilizing the Sourcewell Cooperative Contract with funding from the Gulf Earned Income Fund.
Good morning again, John Boyd, Parks and Recreation. We are requesting permission to purchase this Gator and a select spray unit that would go on that for use at the golf course. This is actually funded by non-taxpayer funds using the earned income fund from the golf courses. Be happy to answer your questions.
Any questions?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item D, Commission Number 1, consider Resolution Number 2022-96, authorizing the levy of a 0.2% Gage Park Authority sales tax.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jim Kraus, Shawnee County Councilor. As you will recall, last August, this board placed before the voters a question as to whether to create a Gage Park Improvement Authority, which would levy a 0.2% sales tax. That question was passed or approved by the voters in the November general election. This resolution before you is the final formal step to be taken by this body to adopt a resolution to levy the tax and to send it back to the state of Kansas to implement the sales tax beginning January 1st, 2023. If this item is approved, I'll send the adopted resolution along with the certified election results to the Kansas Department of Revenue. And then I'll also notify not only ourselves, but the city of Topeka and the other designees that will comprise of the Gage Park Improvement Authority Board that we need to make 2 appointments. The city of Topeka needs to make 2 appointments, and they need to hold their first meeting before January 1st of next year. We'll set all of that straight, assuming this resolution is adopted.
Okay. Questions for Jim? All right, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Next item, please. Thanks, Jim.
Item 5, public comment.
I don't have anybody signed up. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak? Seeing none, next item, please.
Item 6, administrative communications.
Any administrative communications? Okay, Commissioner Rippon?
Attended the Sunflower Showdown, Manhattan. It's cold, damp, and wonderful.
Okay. Commissioner Cook?
I just know that we're coming into that last month of the year. There's a lot that will need to be done. Department heads, if you have things that you need to have done before the end of the year, make sure that you get them on the agenda timely so that we're not down to the very last minute on projects. And if you have questions, do meet with Betty Griner regarding whether or not your project can carry over to next year. So,
All right. Hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. I don't have anything else to add, so next item.
Item 7, executive session.
We do not have a need for executive session today, so we are adjourned.